talking about the reading and use of English. Okay, and it's 1 hour and 15 minutes long. Okay, it's 7 parts and 52 questions in total. It's called the reading and use of English, but you start with the use of English parts first. So the test that we did last week, the one we just checked today, those parts is what you will do in the beginning of this test, okay? However, you will have less questions, okay? The one I gave you was a complete one. You will not have you will have less questions because the test is shorter now, okay? So the general part, you will begin with the use of English parts, which are the parts that we did in the test last week. It is 4 parts and you have 30 questions total, okay? And what they test in this part of the exam is vocabulary, collocations, expressions, preposition combinations, phrasals, and all these things. This is what they're checking, your knowledge of the language, okay, in general. They're also checking vocabulary in context, especially in the last part. Remember part 4, the 2 sentences have to have the same meaning. If you change one word, you're changing the meaning of the second sentence, so it will be a different meaning, right? It's very important. Please check the correct spelling in all of the sections, right? Well, in the first section, not a problem because you have multiple choice, right? So you just select A or B. However, in the other parts, you need to actually complete the vocabulary. Make sure you do it correctly. Otherwise, they will mark it wrong, okay? If you are doing the paper written test, make sure you have clear writing, okay? Make sure your letters are clear, right? Like I said, they will give you a little square for each letter, a little space for each letter. Make sure you write the letter correctly, clearly. And that's what they ask you in the paper base. You see, this is why they ask you to use capital letters, not small letters, because when you write small letters, you can get confused with what you're writing. In capital letters, it's more clear. And it's always important. And this is, you see, this is what happened when I was giving you the answer and many of you were going, of course, that's the answer. It's because you didn't reread, okay? Once you finish completing any, especially in the, you're going to see the strategies on the first part of the test, right? Once you complete it, read it again, okay? Read the sentences again and read the whole story again and see if it makes sense. I am very sure that the first exam that you did, the first time you did this exam, right? If you checked it again and you actually read it, you would have identified your mistakes, okay? But you probably didn't read it again, right? And especially in the first part, it can be very deceiving because, you know, you have 4 choices and, oh, of course, this is the answer, easy. But then when you read it again, you say, oh, wait a minute, no, that doesn't sound right. So it is very important for you to reread what you do, okay? So let's go on then. Let's see. Part 1, okay? It's called a multiple choice cloze, okay? You have 8 questions, okay? And what you need to do, and please check, this is the process, okay? And this is very important because it'll help you to get a better grade, okay? It's something that we have in English that we call to be mentally prepared to do an activity, okay? And this is what happens here, okay? If in the first part, as soon as you get into the first part, in this case was the multitasking, correct? Read the title, okay? The title is multitasking, okay? Very good, okay? Well, it didn't mention here, but in reality, especially now that we're doing the training, you should always read the instructions. The instructions will always be the same, but especially now when we're doing the exam first, make sure you read the instructions because if you do what the instructions say, there won't be any problem, okay? Now, when you get to the exercise, read the title so you can more or less get your mind prepared to what you're going to read. It says multitasking children, oh, multitasking, okay, I know what this is going to be about. I'm a multitasker myself, whatever. So you prepare your mind to what you're going to read. So that's the first one. And you will see that this is always true in this exam and also in the other exams that you have, right? Now, once you finish the reading, you read the title, okay? Skim through the text and please check what it says here. Maybe I'm going to highlight it for the next time, okay? Skim the text, not the choices. And I'm very sure Okay. Many of you, since you saw the possible answers, many of you probably, oh, look, this is easy. The answers are here. Big mistake. Okay, don't do that. First, skim the text. What does skim mean? Skim means something similar to reading it very fast. Okay, or getting the main idea, the gist of what is happening in the text, what the text is all about, understanding the context. Okay, so this is what you need to do first. Okay, have a read, even though you have blanks to fill, right? Read the text anyway, and while you are reading, you will probably already know what the answer is going to be. But don't worry about it, okay? You'll say, okay, this is the answer here, but continue reading. This way you get the whole picture, okay? You get the whole picture of what the text is about. Then, okay, then you choose the answers, okay? Once you finish skimming through the text, then you go back and start, some of them you already knew what possible answer would be there. And then you just check the options and see if you were right? And once you finish answering all of them, correct, read it again, right? Read it again, take a little break. You finish all the 8 questions and then you, okay, that was easy or difficult, whatever. And then take a deep breath, right? Or, okay, clear your mind and read it again with the things that you put in, the words that you put in. And then you decide, does it sound good? Does it make sense?
Translator.
Okay, no, don't use a translator. That'll be difficult. That'll make it worse. Okay, so in English, see if it sounds good. And this is why many of the times, I tell students, especially like you who have a high level, right? I say you really don't need to know a lot of all these like grammatical complicated structures like names, etc. Right? You just need to know how to use them. And if you're exposed to the language enough, when you read it again, you will say, oh, wait a minute, something is wrong here. Okay, and you will probably get the right answer. Okay, for example, I'll give you an easy example. If a student says, okay, what does your father do on weekend? Oh yeah, my father, he go to the park on weekend. Okay, if the student has been practicing enough, he or she should say, wait, teacher, he go, no, it doesn't sound good. Okay, then, oh, he goes to the park. Similar idea. I'm giving you an easy example where when you get to higher levels of structure, it's the same idea. You read it again. If it sounds good, if it makes sense, you are probably right. Okay, so then let's continue then. So that's part 1. And if you do that in part 1, you see, it will help you for part 2, because in part 2, remember, you don't have the answers, right? So part 2 is called an open close. And in this case, it's the same idea. You need to complete, but they don't give you any possible answers. You have to know what the correct word goes in there, right? So same procedure, see? You need to read the title, anticipate what the topic is going to be about. In this case was the London Marathon, right? So you say, oh, a marathon, very interesting. I like to run, but I haven't run a marathon, whatever. So you begin to, get yourself prepared, mentally prepared for the topic, right? Similar idea, you skim the text again. Similar idea, go through the text again. Remember, don't do, oh, what goes in this word, in this space? No, what? No, don't do that. Read the whole thing so you have a general idea of the context, what the whole reading is about. Okay, so you skim through the text and then you go back and read the sentence and complete. Okay, read the sentences carefully. Don't just complete it and say, that's it, perfect. No, read the whole sentence. And once you're finished, same procedure again, you see. Read everything again and see if it sounds good. See if it makes sense, okay? And as I said, if you do this procedure, you have a higher possibility of getting the correct answers, especially if you are really exposed to the language, right? Okay, so this is the process so far. Please remember, always read the title, skim it, and then start answering the questions, okay? And then we go into part 3, okay, which is the word formation, okay? Now, in this case, please check, it's very important, all right? You will have the word that they give you, you need to change the part of the speech. right? So you can change like from a verb to an adjective or an adverb, whatever, depending on what is necessary on the sentence. Okay, and it's easy because the word that they give you, correct, on the right margin, the word that they give you is the word that goes in that blank. Okay, well, not the word, the word form that goes into that blank, right? So if they put act, you need to put action, for example. All right, you don't need to mix them up. They match directly. They correspond. The word they gave you corresponds to what goes in the blank. Okay, so that you need
Santiago, a
yes, ma'am.
question.
Sure.
It could be a noun, a verb, what else?
Noun, verb, adjective, adverb, anything. It could be almost anything in there, right? Any part of speech that you can change, okay? You can transform. And in one of the future lessons, I will give you some suggestions of how to practice changing parts of speech, which is what you did in the exam, right? You see, for example, I give you the word act, and you need to maybe change the word to action in the blank, okay? So that's what you need to do, okay? In this case,
Okay,
similar idea.
perfect.
Okay, Paulina, very good. Same idea, you see. Read the title so you can anticipate. In this case, it was mobile libraries or something, right? So you know, interesting, a mobile library. What's that? Very interesting. I love libraries, books, and stuff, right? Perfect. So you anticipate. Similar idea again. Skim through the text again, okay? And as you're skimming, you will probably know the answer. Okay, but don't waste your time writing it right now. Don't worry about it. Just get a whole idea again, the general context of the reading, right? And then you go back and complete the sentences, right? Now, read each sentence carefully. Now, again, Paulina asked the question, what can go in there? It can be a different type of word. It could be an adjective, an adverb, a noun. It could be a count or an uncount noun, right? And this is where your grammar knowledge comes in handy, right? For example, if the word before says a, then you know the next word is a noun automatically, correct? And you also know that it's a count noun because it's countable, obviously, because it says a. And then if they wrote a, then you also know that the next, the noun has to start with a consonant sound, right? So you see, just from that one little thing, you can already analyze what can go in there. It can also be negative, right? And as you probably noticed in the test, about near the end or past the middle, so far, that's the way it's worked in most of the exams. Usually past the middle, you have about 2 sentences that are negative, okay? Something like, if they give you the word doubt, for example, okay? Then the negative word would be undoubtedly, for example. You know what I mean? So you need to make sure you remember that, right? And finally, the same thing again. Read it again with the words that you wrote in and see if it makes sense. As I mentioned before, if you guys had done this, especially in this part, I'm very sure the majority of you would have had most of the answers correct. Okay, because you read it again, you say, "Oh, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. No, 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 I need to change this." Okay, so make sure you always read it. Okay, read it again, and then we get to the final part of the use of English part from the reading and use of English, right? Which is part 4, which, as I mentioned, is my favorite part. It's called the keyword transformation. In this one, you will only have 6. Okay, in the one that I gave you, you had 8 because that was an old test. But in this one, you only had 6. Okay, in the real test, you will only have 6 questions. And as I mentioned, in this case, they check the grammar and the vocabulary. Okay, and you need to read each sentence carefully. The sentence that they give you, the original sentence, and the sentence that you need to make it so that it has the same meaning, okay? So you need to read each sentence carefully. And you need to complete. Now, please check. It says in the instructions, like I said, you need to follow the instructions very carefully, right? In the instructions, it says a maximum of 5 words, and you cannot change the word that they give you. Okay, the word that they give you has to stay exactly the same as they give it to you. And you can add other words. Now, including the word that they give you and other words, you can have a maximum of 5. Okay, if you have 6, automatically it's wrong. Okay, so a maximum of 5. And remember, contractions also count as 2 words. Okay, and once you complete, again, read the 2 sentences. Okay, and make sure that the meanings are very similar, that there is no change in what the sentences are trying to say. Okay, so it's always important to confirm once you have already done the test. Okay, obviously, and we will analyze that in a little later on. Okay, you know, you can't spend a lot of time doing all these things either. Okay, and this is why you need to practice during the week and stuff, right? Because you only have a certain amount of time to do the whole test. So, you know, skimming shouldn't take you more than a minute. Answering the question, maybe about probably a little less than a minute for answering each question, and then checking it again, another minute more or less. So it's about less than 10 minutes per part, okay, that it should take you. All right. And then after you finish the use of English part, then you get into the reading. Okay. And the general tips for reading. Okay, in the reading, you will have 3 parts, which is strictly reading, and a total of 22 questions. Okay, similar idea. Okay, you need the basic skills: skimming, scanning. They check vocabulary in context, main ideas. Okay, no guessing or interpreting. Now, this is very important. Okay, all of the answers to the questions are given within the reading, especially in part 1. Okay, they are given to you in the reading, so you can't just, well, I think they probably mean this. No, no, no. Okay, and of course, as you, and in all exams, you will have, you know, all of the possible answers may seem correct. Okay, but there is only one possible answer. Okay, so you need to make sure you identify that, right? Because there's only one right answer. Okay. As I said, the answers may have information from the reading. Okay, so you may be misleaded and say, oh yeah, but they mentioned all these things in the reading. True. However, read the question. What is the question asking you to do? There will only be one of those answers that is the correct answer to the question. Okay. And if you're not very sure, then practice elimination, you know, right? Why are the other answers wrong? Okay, eliminate. Okay, this is not the correct answer for this reason, and so on. Okay, so that's the next part, right? Part 4. Part 5, which is the multiple choice. Actually, I think this should be limited. I'm not, yeah. This is the general information from the reading and use of English. Okay. And then specifically part 5, you will have a multiple choice, which is 6 questions. And this is a reading activity. Okay, you will have a longer reading, okay, about a page. And the procedure is exactly the same. Okay, you need to read the title, if there is a title, so that you can anticipate, the same as the readings before, right, what the topic is going to be about. Okay, and then you skim the text again. Now, this skimming will take you a little bit longer because this is a complete reading. The readings that we did in the use of English part is what I call baby readings. Okay, they were very short readings, short articles. In this case, you will have a full article. Okay, so it'll take you a little longer to skim it. The important thing here is another way of skimming is read in each paragraph, read the introduction, some part of the middle, and the conclusion. Okay, that way you have a general idea of what everything is about. Okay, so you skim the text, and some of the activities that they are asked you to do, they replace pronouns with nouns. Yes?
Santiago?
Have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Santiago, once you explain in a course, I don't remember, it was a TOEFL IBT, but you were explaining the differences between skimming and scanning.
Right. Okay, well, this is what we're going to check right now, actually. Perfect, no problem.
Perfect.
That's exactly what we're going to mention right now. Okay, so skimming is kind of just getting a general idea, not specifically looking for, don't worry. And this is one of the mistakes we make, right? Whenever we are reading, there's something we don't understand and we stop. Oh my God, what does this word mean? One word. We're wasting a lot of time in one word. And maybe in the end, that word is not really significant for the whole context of the reading. It could be significant, okay, but we need to understand the meaning from the context, okay? So this is the thing. Skimming is just reading, getting a general idea of what everything is all about, okay? And then when you actually have to answer the question, that is when you scan, okay? Scanning is looking for specific information, I'm sorry, well, information is impossible. Okay, for example, if the question says, how much money did he spend on the car? That is scanning, okay? You skimmed and you say, oh, I remember that answer is on paragraph number 3. And what are you looking for? If the question is how much money did he spend on the car, you're looking for a number, correct? That is scanning. You look through the number, there it is, okay? And then you see if the number corresponds to the answer, right? And if the number says, okay, he was 25 years old, that's not the answer. And then you find another number, and it cost him $2,500. That is the answer. That is scanning, okay? Looking for specific information, right? And okay, replace pronouns and nouns. Synonyms, they also test you on synonyms, keywords, and the closest in meaning, okay, whenever you have these type of questions, all right? But again, you will have only one correct answer, and the best answer or the closest in meaning, okay? In part 6 is what we call a gapped text, okay? Which is similar to the exercises we did in the parts 1 and 2, right? What you will have is, you will probably have maybe a complete article, okay? And in each of the paragraphs, or in some of the paragraphs, they will have removed the sentences, okay? They will have removed a sentence. And what you need to do is put the sentence back in the correct place, okay? So this is the part 6, which is called gap text. And you will have 6 possible, 6 questions, okay? The procedure is exactly the same, okay? You need to read the title, if there is a title, so you can be mentally prepared for whatever the topic is about, okay? And skim the text, again, for important ideas, context, general information, right? And then read the choice sentences, okay? Now, this is the suggested way of doing it, okay? They will give you possible sentences and they will give you extra ones. So, some of them will be misleading. And then read the choices and before you actually match them, okay? Now, this is one of the most common way of doing it, okay? And before you actually complete, put the sentence back in the place where you think it goes, okay? Check the sentence before and the sentence after, okay? In order to see if the vocabulary, the topic, the references match, right? For example, if the sentence to complete says something like, okay, and then he decided to go to the beach, okay? And then he decided to go to the beach. So obviously he is doing a different activity before. And then he decides to go to the beach. You see, you need to find those references there in order to have a higher possibility of putting it in the correct place, okay? And once everything is complete, as usual, read everything again and see if the sentences that you completed actually fit and make sense with the complete reading, okay? All right, and finally, you have part 7, okay? Part 7 is the multiple matching, okay? In this case, what you will have either 4 or 5 different short articles, like the ones we did in last week's exercises, or you will have a complete article separated into paragraphs, okay? And then you will have questions, and it will say, which person talks about this? Okay, and they say, oh, person A, B, C, or D. Or in which paragraph do they talk about vacations, for example? And then you need to just match the corresponding paragraphs, okay? Or people. So the suggestions that they have here, and in the test, you will actually have the questions first, okay? Or the choices first. Not as in the other cases, you have the reading and then the choices or the questions. In this case, they will give you the choices first, because that's what they suggest that you do, okay? Read the questions first, okay? And then do the reading, okay? And skim each article, okay? The keywords and the possible answers, okay? And you need to paraphrase, okay? Because the question won't be exactly, or the sentences that they give you, they won't say exactly what is mentioned in the paragraphs, but it will be paraphrased. So you need to make sure you have this skill. Make sure you read the questions first, okay? And before you do the reading of the articles. This is the suggested way of doing it. Now, and this is why we're doing the training, right? In your case, maybe, and that is my case. For me, it didn't work. For me, it was easier to first read the articles and then check the choices. But that's what worked for me, okay? So this is what you need to experiment to see which one works better for you. Is it reading the questions first and then the article, or reading the article first and then doing the questions?